All right. Happy spring equinox to you.
Happy spring equinox.
We just had an amazing ceremony with some of our girlfriends.
Yeah.
And we wanted to bring you all into how good it felt because I really needed that. How about you?
Yeah, it was such a transformative shift and reminder of that power of connection to just draw out all of the stress and anxiety floating around. Was just magical.
And we had been planning this for a long time. It was the first time in our little friend group, everybody was in the same hemisphere, same continent.
It's true.
we used to do that a lot. And so we had this day planned, very loose. I mean, it was going to be like, let's do some ceremony. Like, that's just kind of what we do. Mm-hmm. But I was so sad when I thought it wasn't going to happen. And then the more we talked about it, we were like, okay, we wanted to create virtual space to gather and to construct something sacred that can happen wherever we are. And that's what we accomplished today.
Yeah. And it was so profound to feel that space held, and a reminder of that quantum energy of space and places wherever you can set that intention and hold it was really a powerful reminder.
Yeah. And the reason that we wanted to share this with you guys is to invite you into doing that, because there's so much empowerment and connection with it. No matter how isolated you have to be, you're not really isolated. And the reason that we wanted to talk about ceremony a little bit today is because another way to make lemonade out of lemons, if you happen to have more time on your hands and maybe you've always wanted to incorporate more ritual and ceremony into your life, well, how about now?
Yeah, it really is
easy. You know, it's not
technology. Yeah.
Carrie and I have been talking about this a lot, about how I think holding ceremony gets to be intimidating for people. Like, I don't know how to do that, so I can't empower myself with a ritual right now. And hopefully this little conversation can dispel some of that, because granted, our friend group, I mean, we've been doing ceremony and ritual together in shamanic practice for years, so we can be like, oh, it's easy. But for people who've never done it, what kind of perspectives do you want to give on it, Carrie, that are easy and flexible?
Yeah. One thing that I was really reminded of, it's so important to give the space to just catch up. Just everybody share, where are you at? What's going on? It's kind of like you get to school and you want to have playtime outside so that you can settle into it. So I was really aware of, even though we've been having a common text chain and talking to each other and sharing, just to like, I needed time to take in everybody's backgrounds and see their faces. And so I think creating that space to not feel like you have to jump in and like, oh, did it just start and what's happening? Again, that kind of hyped up energetic, just settle into it. Remember that it's people hanging out and sharing love and being together. So that aspect of starting with loose and free and hanging out and catching up and, hey, what's up and what's been going on? And especially with all that's going on now, it was great to do that.
You're so right. Like, just a very relaxed check-in and giving everybody time to share.
Yeah.
And you're always going to have people who are less comfortable with the sharing.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
And also, to your point, exactly with that, life goes on. So if a phone call comes in or something happens, like, that's okay. If somebody has to stop to go to the bathroom, that's okay. Like, we make our own rules, and it's really about what allows for the openness in that space.
That is so true. And that's what I really like about it. Over the years of trying to learn ceremony and participate and go be in collective groups with people where I could feel spiritually encouraged and empowered and share energy with people, I was always turned off by the whole rigid, you have to do it like this, and once you sit into the ceremonial circle, you have to leave like that. And there is much reverence with what we do and we do take it seriously, but we also allow space to be easy about it, and not one more thing that you need to be stressed out about when it's elective.
Absolutely. That in that room to settle into it. Because I am someone that has my drawers for specific things and loves to organize and loves to have a plan and a map. And so I do like some structure of it, but I've also noticed how much I've enjoyed the wisdom and the pleasure of having been settled into it for so long, to let it flow and trust. Because even in those wild, crazy things that can occur that may be like, oh man, that was a mess up, or what did you do, or somebody left, it has a message. And so there really is, if you let the whole experience breathe and see the whole thing as part of it, it really has such a playfulness. And it is to be playful and fun and joyful.
Yeah, and there's a way to be sacred and playful and easy at the same time. And I remember when I was learning how seriously I took a lot of things, like before I learned how to be sacred and humorous at the same time.
Yeah.
But I thought it might be good if we just kind of let people in on, all right, what did we just experience? And then if they're sitting around with family or by themselves, if they want to connect with friends that are like-minded virtually and do something like this, just a very basic overview of like, hey, if you want to come together, here's some things you could think about. What do you think about that?
Love that. I think that's great, because I agree. I think it can be very daunting if you've never done it before. And there's a sense like, if I don't do it right, it's not effective. And one of the things that we always talked about is effectiveness is the measure of truth. So what works for people is what their truth is. So, you know, what that space looks like, and setting up a place, and working with what you've got. And if it works for you, that's the truth of what works for you.
And I think as we're now going to start connecting more this way during this time, where of course I love in-person ritual and ceremony and being outside and having the nature component of it too, I think I'm going to get more comfortable with doing it this way, because what we did today virtually just made me feel so much better that it's worth it. It's worth doing it this way. If I can't get everybody's bodies together and get outside and be in the forest, so what? So what, really?
Yeah. And don't pass it up because the moment's not right, or you can't do that. Like we took advantage of today. Make use of what's available, go for it, and see what happens. Yeah.
Definitely. And be flexible with, you and I had wanted to do some things, and we were flexible on the timing to see how we felt and check in with each other. That's a really important piece of it. Yeah. And what we did with our friends, there were what, like 8 of us? Were there 8 of us?
I think so. 7 or 8? Yeah.
Yeah. We had wanted to come together around the equinox anyway, and we usually try to do something intentional as the seasons change, because if you're just getting into ritual and ceremony, that's a great, wonderful time of change.
Yeah.
So to make it positive change, coming together with people who have like minds and like hearts, and placing your prayers, placing your intentions and your hopes and your dreams somewhere that you can put these things that are in our minds and our hearts. And where do we put this? Ceremony gives us a container that we're creating together for that.
Yeah, I like that idea about the container. That's beautiful. And then doing it with the rhythm of nature, because then it's in support as the birds and the plants and everything's transitioning and shifting. It's another element that is cheering us and holding us up, and that energy and life.
Yes. So what's this one like for you, as far as each seasonal celebration is different? So here we are in the equinox, the spring equinox. What is that to you?
Definitely rebirth is an aspect that I feel energetically so beautifully around me, where we woke up that day and opened the door and the birds were singing and the bees were buzzing, and there was an awakening, a coming out of hibernation. And it was so interesting and in sync with what's going on with having to stay at home more. And for me, it was a reminder of grounding in nature and being in the environment and breathing in the air and feeling all of that around me. So it was a big rebirth part as I'm being told, okay, you've got to stay inside, that, or in your home bounds, that to be with nature every single day for a moment, to hug that tree or smell those daffodils, which has been such a help.
Absolutely. And
How about for you?
Yeah, that's something that I'm usually inside. I'm usually in my treatment room all day when it's beautiful. And I am not letting that pass me by, that this is a wonderful opportunity for me to get that sunshine, nourishment, and grounding of the earth. And I look at the spring equinox as it's always an opportunity for a resurrection and a rebirth. And there's always, you know, with the Easter Christianity celebration, the Passover, with the Jewish celebration, there's so many spiritual sacred times associated with right now in all different religions. And I think that's very on purpose.
Yes.
Being in sync with nature of what do you want to emerge out of, what do you want to be resurrected into and rebirthed into at this time. And how wonderful that we see right now the pollution clearing and the earth getting a little bit of a break.
Incredible. I mean, it is, to see dolphins swimming in the canals of Venice, and that the pollution, how quickly, this is the part that blows my mind, the speed of the resilience of the response from the earth is unbelievable. And it is such a reminder to me of stay present. Don't get too future thinking or too past thinking. Like, we are resilient, and just stay in the moment and see what magic is happening in front of us right now.
It's exciting. It is. There's a lot of challenges right now, but there's a lot of excitement and positivity if you want to see it's there.
Yeah.
So those are some good things about the equinox. But if you, for those listening, if you just start to tune in to the cycles of nature, life gets a lot better. I can honestly say, you know, where maybe used to I didn't know, oh my gosh, it's full moon and I'm feeling extra emotional, or it's the moon. Just, and you don't have to be like super in your head about it either, but making a note on your calendar of just the significant ones, which isn't a lot. How do you do that in your life?
Yeah, that's such a beautiful reminder, because it helps it to not feel so outside of myself. And I remember beginning to understand that our emotions are weather. It's ever changing, and it's passing and evolving. And I used to track it, again, being a Virgo and loving my charts. I had an Excel spreadsheet of my cycle and the moon and my moods, and it served a purpose, and it was very helpful. And that's my nature. It's like, I want to learn the rules. I want to understand. I want to have it organized so then I can just let it all go, so that when I feel comfortable in it. But yeah, tracking, being in sync with the moon, having a calendar, not on my phone. I found that I need a visual paper calendar. So something that's beautiful, because I'm an artist, I love beauty, and having something visual that I can look at that. And so often I go, oh, hello, oh my gosh, that's this. And it just, again, it helps me feel the universe co-conspiring, supporting. Nature is always with me. Again, that reminder of water in my body flowing with the moon. So yeah, a very practical way is having a beautiful visual calendar that I love to go to, just to check in where I am with the moon cycle and get a sense of myself. And I've noticed my energies totally being in flow with that, of when I have more and want to clear out the house or get things done, and when I need to be more quiet and restful. And not everybody's the same. That's, I think, something else that's really important, is we're not all, you know, purging on the full moon and feeling energy on the new moon, or vice versa. We all have different rhythms, but to know your own in relation to that, I find, can be a beautiful guide. How do you do that?
Yeah, same with me. I need to write it. I like the wee moon calendar for that to be my own little sacred special, not my work appointment
Yeah.
calendar, but more body rhythms and manifestation practices and things like that. And that's just now, though. I mean, I think in the beginning, I just started paying attention mostly to like when the seasons would come in. I wanted to take note of that somehow. And usually that was by myself
Mhm.
for many years. It could have been as something as simple as lighting a candle or pulling a wisdom card
Yeah.
just on that day, or doing a little bit more journaling or self-care when I wasn't that in tune with nature. It could be just, oh, okay, it's the solstice. Let me tap into if there is some extra power in this.
Mhm.
What do I want to write? Do I want to write my goals down? Just something very internal. It could be just a little bit of an extra gift to yourself on that day to start out with. It doesn't have to be like host a ceremony for 30 people. It doesn't have to be that big.
It's not another task. Yeah, it's not another task to add to the list. Although sometimes, again, that structure of making sure you have that day, that you commit, that you make a date, you make a commitment with yourself that I'm going to set time aside, can be really helpful. And I love whenever I work with people and share with them, or even just in our friend group when it happens, those aha moments of like, wow, how amazing to feel that connection with it. And like you said, or pulling a card to think about what the energy of that day going forth is, just provides a focus that brings energy to things. And that energy can be so powerful. And that makes me think about objects and the use of objects, because I think that's something else that can be confusing or overwhelming for people about what kind of tools do I need? And I love how you wanted to approach this of just, keep it simple. So thinking about objects and tools, what are your thoughts on that in regards to keeping it flow and simple and easy?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in power objects for your altar, things from nature that speak to you, whether it's a feather or a crystal or an animal part or a bone or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
My thoughts on that is notice what comes to you. Notice what nature gives
Oh,
us. If you're
love that.
hiking and all of a sudden, there's a beautiful feather, a gift from spirit, those are the kind of special objects that can be carefully placed on an altar and assigned intention,
Mm-hmm.
because in shamanism practice that's relevant to our modern life, it's less about the object, it's more about the intention and the power that we give the object, because we're the power, we're the intention.
Wow. I love that. That's so beautiful, because I collect little treasures when I travel and love them representing the elementals. I just shared some images of my altar and with some friends and on Instagram, because I wanted to kind of show what that layout looks like, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody's is different and some people might just have it on their windowsill. But I love that aspect that you mentioned of what objects come to you, because I have a rock that was given to me 20 years ago, just a little tiny one that has mica in it, quartz with some mica in it. But every time I pick it up, it holds that place, that memory, that love, and an intention that was set, that was fulfilled 18 years later. And I had no idea. Like, I have little treasures from the ocean, treasures from the sky, from birds. And it just blows my mind how much the memory of an experience will come back, and then that just floods through my cells and just feels so supportive and joyful, and again, playful. It's so playful for me. It takes me to a place of childhood, of being out in nature and having those special mementos. So I'm so grateful for that in my life.
I think we should do a whole class or conversation around ceremonial objects and shamanic power tools, and how to create your altar. And I mean, we could go on and on about that. So start where you are. And I'm a big fan of being simple and resourceful. If you're a world traveler and you have a backpack and that's it, a leaf, a flower, you do not need a lot to create a powerful ceremony. And I kind of like it better. I'm not one to be really bogged down, and crystals usually end up going to other people as they tell me who they want. So I cannot tell you the thousands of gemstones I've had in my possession for a while in my lifetime, and how they just go where they need to go. And so if you've got one candle and you're like, I'm going to light this candle with a strong intention, and it's you and that element of fire, or you know what, you have your breath, you have an offering to spirit with your breath of like peace, harmony, healing, you know, all the things you could put out with your breath, and there's your offering. You do not need to make it heavy and weighted down with like, oh gosh, I need a million different things. That kind of reminds me of like if somebody can't do their yoga practice because they don't have like a bunch of tools. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, like you said, because it just becomes an obstacle. It becomes another thing that becomes burdensome. And I am such a believer, instiller of, we want these things to be our magic wands, not our whips. This is not something else to whip ourselves over. I didn't do it again, and I messed up, and I didn't do it right. This is magic in the most beautiful, spiritual, deeply connecting way. And I love what you said about breath, and also about word, that expression. Just like you said, one candle, no candle, taking a deep breath and speaking what you need and request from the universe, from God, from spirit, whatever resonates with you. The power of this, and invoking it and saying it and sharing it, that is at the core of every religion and spiritual practice that I've ever studied or known of. That crosses all lines. This spoken word and expressing it is kind of the key to it all in so many ways.
You've already come equipped with what you need in any given moment. You already have what you need. Yeah. And what's really, like you said about magic, what I love that's evolved with our little friend group, and this could be with anybody, that's the point of having this conversation and sharing it, is you guys can all do this. It's not like, oh, we have something nobody else can do and it's exclusive. No, it's really not. But the cool thing is, the more that we've gathered and created sacred space together, I love the offerings, how we don't plan it out. We don't talk about what's going to happen. Nobody goes, I'm bringing a feather for everybody. Or somebody else is like, I'm going to bring an essential oil and anoint everyone with a blessing. Or I'm going to read this poem, or, you know, just whatever kind of offering is presented. It's a completely spontaneous, sweet, magical thing. And you never know what's going to happen. And it's like show and tell. It's just so sweet.
I love that. I totally agree, because also as people are getting started, you'll feel a nervousness. People will feel a nervousness like, oh my gosh. And especially if you're in a group and you're not used to that, there can be self-consciousness around speaking in front of people. And again, that, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? And I love what you're saying, to have that spontaneity, because the people around you are going to touch on things and touch your heart and inspire you. So also trust yourself in that process, that whatever needs to come through in that space that's created will come through. And if you never say a word the whole time, that is what you needed in that moment. And if you have a tool or a practice that helps you feel supported, then go for it. And I wanted you to speak to about working with the plants and burning plants, and how you feel about that, because I think that's a really neat part that people are more aware of as well, that they can feel connected to and feel the benefit of that. To incorporate the senses like sound and smell and sight really helps to instill that experience.
Yes, and it's such an ancient practice, and there's something that resets me and calms me and totally puts me in a different energy. It's the quickest shift I can give myself, is to burn a plant. And I don't make that complicated either. I will use what I have. I love having bundles of everything from dried lavender to cedar to sage to mugwort to you name it. There's just so many beautiful plants that like to be worked with in ceremony. And so you can get really creative with it, but you can start, I mean, health food stores typically have bundles of dried plants that are used. And this is a, an old indigenous practice. You can use them for lots of different things, lots of different prayer vehicles like
Mhm.
sweetgrass. Sweetgrass is a deliverer of prayers. Some are used more for spiritual purification and clearing, but that's really up to you. And that's what I like about what you said about being brave. Start
Mhm.
with people that you can be yourself around and that you can be really
Yes.
comfortable to step out and just be real. I mean,
Yeah.
he gives us a chance for that. And
Yeah.
that doesn't happen a lot in our world.
It that yeah. I mean, just thinking about our ceremony we had today and just coming in that place and knowing that everyone was just sending me love and want to know how I was and how could they support me and vice versa. That just aspect of giving and receiving in such a simple way without having to buy a present or buy a dinner or any concern about, oh, what can you afford to do right now? All you have to do is show up with your presence, set the intention to have the time and the space. Of course, you want it uninterrupted so that you can have, open it and close it. Meaning, sometimes we do sound, but I think it's important to say, like, our sacred space has now begun in regards to having that ceremony, so that again, that vessel, that vehicle, that container for it can say, okay,
Mhm.
we are now holding. I think that's why holding hands in a circle energetically or in person is so great, because it's like we have now closed the circle, we finished catching up and talking, and now we're going to start with those things that we want to bring. And maybe it's the burning of a wonderful plant, or maybe it's the ringing of a bell, or maybe it's a expressing of a prayer. Again, I think that incorporating the senses in that moment is so helpful, just for our own brains to say, like, okay, we're here now, let's be in this moment.
I love that. That's a great point about closing a circle can sound like it's done, but that's the opposite the way we do it. We encircle it and seal it, and we set our intention about who's invited. And so that could be our spirit guides, our totem animals, our ancestors, anyone who loves us that we want to call their energy in. But it's not, it's claiming with the power of our voice and the power of our intention. This is who's invited in, and now we seal it. And this is our little sacred moment in time and space that we have claimed as important. And there's real power in that.
Absolutely. As we all felt today. I mean, I love how you asked after we had gone through some different things of talking and sharing. You said, did anybody see anything? Did anybody feel anything in their body that they want to share? This is not a forced, okay, we go around the circle and you better say something, but to open us up into, oh, what did I just see? What memory came to mind? What did I need? Am I crying? What have I been holding in? There's a real power in that, bringing us back into ourself, to then say what just occurred. So thank you for that. I love that, because I think that's a real gift, as well as people are opening up to their other aspects of themselves to affirm those new experiences and new feelings that they have, that I think ceremony absolutely opens the doorway to, and begins a relationship in a new way that so many people are seeking right now.
You are so right. I'm so glad you said that, because there's this connecting point that happens in a ceremony where it's almost like you've been given permission
Yeah.
to call your awareness in a greater way, because nothing else is being expected of you other than for you to be completely wherever you are. What images might be rolling through your mind, or like you said, feelings in your body. Because for me, as soon as we all got there and after the sharing, it was only when we really called it together of, this is real,
Mm-hmm.
this is what we're doing right now, and everyone started breathing together, I felt my body just soften,
Oh,
because I've done it enough times now that I have that cellular memory
yes.
of, oh, this is good, this is my control, and these people love me and they're holding me, and I can just let go finally, because I was very lifted. I do get a lot of body awareness when we get into the space of the ceremony, but I was lifted up, kind of holding myself on alert with
Okay. Yeah.
everything that has been going on lately. And there was just a softening, like all the way down to my tailbone. Like I could feel this sinking into just being held by these beautiful women.
I love that. And I just think about all of the physical benefit to your whole system to be given that. I think that's the other, can be a motivating factor for people that are, okay, am I going to do this? Oh, I don't have the time. It is like a full night's sleep at times. It can feel like the best workout ever. It's so nurturing in a consolidated moment of like a recharge. It's like I had my healthy breakfast, my power nap, my hug from my loved ones, like everything in one. And we weren't even in the same room together. Like it's so cool to feel that and then be crying my eyes out. And as I'm feeling others' concerns, but also just having my own experience with it. Like just how powerful that is. And I loved when because at one point we then said, okay, what do we want to bring into this moment? You know, we made space for people to breathe and get into their body and be in that space. And then through conversation, and again, okay, it's my turn now, follow the note cards.
Now you may speak.
Exactly. I have the conch. Although you can do that if you're in person, it's fun to have like a little tool that you pass around so everybody's not talking over each other if it's new to you. But I love it that there was that flow of, okay, what do we need? What do we want to put into this container? What prayer, what support for ourselves, for the world, for our loved ones, whatever it is, now is the time. And again, this is part of giving some guidance. So somebody's not sitting there going, oh, when's the part when I get to talk? Oh, what's happening? Like I can remember that in early stages of learning, like, oh, am I going to know when to speak? Am I going to miss my opportunity? And then it's over. You want to avoid that so that everybody can relax into it. So I love how you were like, okay, who would like to speak and share with what they're needing right now? And it just flowed. And you reminded us about gratitude for our breath. There's so much out there about breathing and breath work and meditation and just take a deep breath that it's just more common now, but it's so important to remember how powerful that is. So do you want to say something about that in regards to breath and what you were thinking about when you offered that up?
Yeah, I was thinking about, especially in light of our world events right now and all the collective fear around getting sick, around having respiratory issues right now, especially the abundance and wealth of a good deep breath and how easy it is to take that for granted. And that was a big, huge gratitude that I was bringing into the center of that circle that we were creating, of like being able to take a deep breath deep down into my lower lobes of my lungs is something that I will not take for granted while I have it. And since other people would do anything right now to have that kind of gratitude builds. And as we were constructing this non-physical space that we were all visioning differently and seeing in our minds, I could feel the effect that was having on other people that we don't know. That there's a collective effect when, you know, the Bible speaks of it, when two or more are gathered. So not taking that for granted, that we can still gathering human beings together is just extremely, extremely important. And I love what you said about those first few years of being in structured ceremony. that feeling of like, oh God, what am I going to say? Something as profound as what this person said, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And you can't really just right off the bat not have that. I think that's practice. That comes with practice, don't you? To be just, I'm just going to let it flow. And in our little group, I mean, that's just a handful of people that we do this with. We've done it long enough that somebody might just start toning. They might just start, oh, you know, like, and you don't have to do it with them, or somebody else might ring a bell. But we've gotten to that comfort level with each other. And why not? I mean, if you've got one other person in this world that you feel comfortable enough to be authentic with, why not play ceremony with them right now? I mean, it might help.
And I love that about, we're all going to have different experiences. This is not a who's more spiritual competition. We are not vying for the most amazing out of body experience, or who knew exactly what the thing you burned was before you told us, because our olfactory senses are so on point. Like and there's not an agenda, and those are all things that might go through your head, and that's okay too. Like allow the experience, no judgment as much as possible, love yourself, and then the blessing of those around you, they're sharing in that love. And we just kept saying over and over the gratitude we have for this group of people that love us, don't judge us, get it, share it, anything's game. We can talk about whatever. And we worked hard to cultivate that. We have put in love and time and heartache and sharing and ups and downs to have this group of people. But at one point, we started with a bunch of strangers that some knew each other a lot better than others, and it took time to build and grow. And I just celebrate our commitment to each other to keep that going. And some people have left and some people have entered, and it is a flowing, breathing organism that we allow it to change and adapt to wherever we are, so that we can continue to have that.
Yes. And since we did want this to be very inclusive and kind of a beginning, I have a few things on my website right now that are like just suggestions.
Awesome.
Might be something you and I even want to create together and
Cool.
offer some more downloads and things like that. Something that we could do just to get you started. But if you are out there and you're like, okay, I'm at home and I'm a little freaked out and my friends are a little freaked out, where to start? That's like really, really simple. Number one, set a collective intention. Mm-hmm. Light a candle, do an action step, something that shows that. And there's
love that
tons of, suggestions I give for that. And I'm sure you've got a million suggestions we could offer them. And then also think about, what do you want to clear? Yeah. What do you want to manifest? And make an action for that. What else do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I love having the crystal or the object and something to go to. I'm tactile with it. So having something that you bring with you, it could even be a handkerchief that stays on you, that you literally put your thoughts and prayers and your fellow members of your ceremony thoughts and prayers in that, and treasure it like a gift that was just given, and have a place for it that you come in contact with, that you can converse with it or just feel it, because we are such memory-based beings. Our memories are held in our systems and water in our bodies. So put the power in that, keep it with you, and touch it when you need it, especially when you're stressed out. Go hold that object. It will remind you to take a deep breath. Like that, the purpose of that moment, to bring it together, to then carry with you whenever you've left that circle. So that's a huge part of it for me, is to be able to reconnect with it when I need it and support me.
I love that. And I was thinking about something to do with my family during this time, and in honor of the equinox. Let's all write down our fears and let's burn them. I love to burn things. I love to burn plants. I love to burn things I want to release. But how cool, because we have a fire pit. So we're spending a lot of time outside. But let's all write down our fears and maybe the fears of the world, and let's watch that change. Let's watch that with an element of nature transmute into something else, because this is all about action. And another thing I'll tell you that I've seen from facilitating ceremony in live groups of people for years, it's scary. It's very, very, if someone's never stood up in front of other people, even if it's their family, and said, these are my fears. Yeah. And I want to transmute those fears, or even scarier sometimes, this is what I want.
Yes.
This is what my heart desires. Yep. That will make you cry. And that's everything.
I love that. And that the power and that vulnerability. And like you're saying with this, I'm right there with you. I love burning intentions. I love burning and releasing. There is such power in letting that smoke rise up with that energy. And I think also in this time of spring and rebirth and seeing things come up, you can also, plant something in the earth if that's something that's more comfortable. If you want to go, plant some flowers, or bury a rock that you've put all of your fear in, to let the earth absorb that energy for you. Really connecting with that element, I have seen be so powerful, and really amazing experiences in ceremony with you over the years of through arrows and writing something down and then giving it up to nature is really amazing. And I think another very tangible, makes sense, logical, if you're new to this, using that aspect of it and just flowing with it, giving yourself permission to see what comes out. You might be surprised.
And that's exactly what I'm writing about right now. The book I'm writing, which, hey, I may get more time to work on than I but I'm writing a book about, how to do this just in modern day world,
Awesome.
Not appropriating another culture, not trying to act like anything that you're not trying to be anyone other than who you are, to make it really original and authentic and creative for yourself, because that's where I think we are in today's world. Any ceremony and ritual that we do needs to reflect us and what's important and relevant in our own life, not, okay, how did they set up the stones, and you got to start in the east, and you got to walk this way, and you can't touch the drum, and you can't, like, that's for some, that was for another time and another place and other people. Yeah. And being brave enough to be like, well, we're creating the rules here, because all this is about is intention anyway. It's all it ever was about.
I love that. And especially with all that's going on in the world, we are in a time of transformation and rebirth. So let's take advantage in every way, shape, and form. As we've talked about, we are all going through a similar experience at the same time, which kind of probably never happens in this way. I mean, it has never happened in this way that anybody on earth right now has experienced, and that we know of. I mean, there might be some elders elsewhere that are, 127, I don't know about. But I think it's a real opportunity right now to be in this common space and place and turn a challenge into a really opportune time to create what you want your life and your world to look like. And I am so grateful for your website and your books and your tools, because you've been on this journey a long time and have had a very different upbringing to where your experience led you. And so I think you have a beautiful perspective on how to offer people to see it in a new way that maybe is new to them, and how to forge your own path and listen to your own heart and what's true. And I try to encourage that with my clients and my friends, that it's just, this is the opportunity at every moment to be in touch with who you are inside, and finding a way to speak your truth and be your truth and connect. And we're all feeling so vulnerable, and that also is a real opportunity to connect. And I'm finding that in really beautiful ways right now.
And that may be a perfect closure point for part one, because I could talk to you about this like from now on. Like, it's just really exciting to me. And I had brought like things, and I figured both of us are going to talk about how we use different kinds of objects from nature and all that. But that feels like maybe part two, and just getting everybody excited about you can do this. You can do this.
Absolutely. And I think also go with wonderment, go with curiosity. Like I said, sometimes I finish and I'm like, I've got to go sleep, or I've got to go shower. I have to be alone, or I can't wait to go be with my family. It's going to be different every time. But it is an experience. There is that beginning and end, and you step away and then it continues. Even though you've closed that space and the container concept of the beginning and end, that energy stays with you. So just stay in that place of wonderment to see how it feels and what works for you. And maybe you want to have more people or less people, just pay attention. Just be curious about it and see what happens and what feels good. Because ultimately the purpose is to feel connected, feel open-hearted, feel supported, and have fun. I think we talk about all the time. Have fun. So much fun.
I would definitely agree with that the biggest benefit ceremony has given me all these years is connecting me to other people and giving us a heart connection, not in our heads and intellectual, but it goes way deeper than that. And you can know someone on a level that you haven't seen them, that you haven't experienced them, if you get to have a time with them that's sacred in that way. And I do hope that that happens right now, because I think people really need to connect and feel each other's support at this time.
Absolutely. I love that. And so I will close with, I'm Carrie Hamilton, and exowellness.com is my site. You can find me on Instagram at exowellness and Facebook at exowellness. And Evangeline?
EvangelineHemrick.com. You can check out my offerings and hopefully get some good suggestions for getting started. Definitely reach out to if you have questions. You can email me at healing@evangelinehemrick.com, or you can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and we've just been putting out some little YouTube videos too, so find us on YouTube as well.
Yeah, check out our YouTube channels with the same names, Exo Wellness and Evangeline Hemrick. And, you know, and this is new for us too. We're having a great time and choosing this different medium to share with y'all and just share what we know. Hopefully it offers some fun and support and joy for y'all, because I know it definitely does for me to connect with you, Evangeline, in this way. So I thank you and love you so much.
Thank you. Happy spring equinox.
Yes. Thank you.
So fun. So fun. I love you.
I love you.
All right.
Cool.
This will be, I'll go ahead and stop recording.
Okay.